Naval battles in the 18th century followed a rigid script. You waited for daylight, lined up in neat formations, and fired when ordered. There were rules, unspoken and spoken, that every admiral obeyed. Fighting at night? That was madness. In the chaos of darkness, ships collided with allies, cannons fired blindly, and the sea turned into a deadly maze. But on January 16, 1780, Admiral George Rodney ignored all of it. A storm raged in the Atlantic. The Spanish fleet, thinking they were safe under the cover of night, sailed toward Cadiz, unaware that danger stalked them in the dark. Rodney saw them and saw an opportunity no one else would dare to take. He ordered the chase, at night, in a storm, and it worked. This is the story of the Moonlight Battle, how one man rewrote the rules of naval warfare, trusted in chaos, and emerged victorious. Why did he risk everything? What gave him the edge others lacked? And what happened when the gunpowder lit the sky under a moonless storm? Because sometimes the difference between victory and disaster is the courage to break every rule in the book. Let's unravel one of the most daring moves in military history. To understand why Rodney's move was so unthinkable, you need to understand the golden rules of 18th century naval warfare. Naval battles were choreographed events. Two fleets would line up in formation, broadside to broadside, and exchange fire in daylight. It was about control, discipline, and visibility. Night battles, that was considered suicidal. Ships communicated with flags and signal lanterns. In darkness, signals were useless. One wrong turn and you could ram your own ally. And friendly fire wasn't a risk, it was a guarantee. Worse still, gunpowder wasn't waterproof. Storms and sea spray could render cannons useless. Visibility dropped to near zero, and ships lost track of friend and foe. A single misstep could lead to a full-blown disaster. Most admirals played it safe. They waited for sunrise, regrouped, and avoided unnecessary risks. No one wanted to be remembered for losing a fleet in the dark. But Rodney? He studied those rules and decided they didn't apply. His confidence wasn't arrogance. It came from experience, preparation, and a deep understanding of naval mechanics. While others feared the dark, Rodney saw it as the ultimate tactical advantage. And on January 16th, he would prove the rulebook wasn't just flawed, it was begging to be broken. George Bridges Rodney wasn't your typical British admiral. By the time of the Moonlight Battle, he was a seasoned veteran of war, ruthless, brilliant, and deeply unconventional. Born in 1719, Rodney had been fighting at sea since his teenage years. He climbed the ranks with a combination of tactical brilliance and political savvy. But by 1780, his career had taken a downturn. He was drowning in debt and desperately needed redemption. When the British government gave him command of a fleet bound for the West Indies, he saw more than just a job. He saw a way to reclaim his legacy. Rodney was known for pushing the boundaries of naval doctrine. He believed that strict formations and outdated rules were holding back the Navy. He wanted to win, not just follow tradition. His mind was wired for risk. Where others saw danger, he saw opportunity. And he had one massive advantage. He trained his crews relentlessly. His men were drilled to respond to chaos, not just order. Rodney wasn't just a commander. He was a calculated gambler. And with the Spanish fleet moving within reach, he was ready to roll the dice in a way no admiral had ever dared. January 16, 1780. The Spanish fleet was moving along the southern coast of Portugal, aiming for the safety of Cadiz. They had no idea Rodney was closing in fast. with 18 ships of the line and a hunger for a decisive blow. A storm was brewing. Winds howled across the Atlantic, and the sky turned to charcoal. Most commanders would have held position, waiting for better visibility. But Rodney saw something others missed. Flashes of white sails on the horizon, barely visible in the gloom. The Spanish were scattered, their formation broken by weather, disorganized and vulnerable. Rodney's instincts kicked in. He ordered his fleet to give chase at full sail through worsening winds and falling night. No formation, no waiting for dawn. This wasn't a conventional engagement, it was a hunt. As his ships surged forward, Rodney knew the risks. Miscommunication, collisions, disaster. But he also knew the moment wouldn't come again. One by one, his ships found their marks in the dark. The enemy, stunned by the aggression and speed, couldn't respond in time. Rodney wasn't just chasing them, he was closing the net. The advantage was psychological, as much as tactical. The Moonlight Battle had begun, and the Spanish didn't even realize it. As night fell and the Atlantic raged, Rodney's fleet slammed into the Spanish like a hammer through fog. Lanterns flickered on British decks, casting eerie glows as orders were shouted over crashing waves. Gun ports opened, cannons roared. This was no neat battle line, it was controlled chaos. Rodney's plan wasn't just bold, it was precise. His captains were trained to adapt, to read the ocean and each other. In the darkness, they moved with an eerie synchronicity, targeting isolated Spanish ships with overwhelming firepower. The coordination came not from visibility, but from trust, training, and relentless drills that prepared them for moments like this. The Spanish, caught off guard, had no chance to form a proper defense. One by one, their ships were crippled, masts shattering, hulls splintering under relentless broadsides. Aboard the British vessels, crews reloaded with mechanical discipline, pushing their cannons to the limit. Amid the smoke and lightning, the Spanish flagship San Domingo burst into flames. Fire licked its sails, powder stores ignited, and in a blinding explosion, the ship vanished, taking over 600 men with it. The shock was felt across the entire fleet, but the terror didn't stop the British advance. Rodney's fleet hunted in packs, turning the stormy sea into a trap. His gamble was paying off. He had turned darkness into an ally, not an enemy. British ships swarmed the Spanish with a momentum that seemed unstoppable. By dawn, it was over. The Spanish had lost 11 ships, thousands of men, and their naval confidence. Rodney had taken the unthinkable, night combat in a storm, and made it a masterpiece of tactical brilliance. This wasn't just a victory, it was a message. Rules are for those without imagination. Rodney had rewritten the playbook of naval warfare. The aftermath of the Moonlight Battle was more than just sunken ships and lost men. It was a seismic shift in how naval warfare was understood. Rodney's bold decision shattered the long-held belief that the sea was off-limits after sunset. He proved that with the right training, discipline and mindset, darkness could become a tactical weapon. The British fleet didn't just win, they embarrassed the Spanish Navy. 11 ships were captured or destroyed, thousands taken prisoner. British morale soared. Back home, Rodney was hailed as a hero. Parliament praised his genius, and newspapers called it one of the most brilliant manoeuvres in Royal Navy history. But not everyone was convinced. Some traditionalists accused him of recklessness, saying he got lucky and risked disaster. Others whispered that the storm, not Rodney, had broken the Spanish. Yet history tells a different story. Rodney's actions inspired a new generation of naval leaders. He showed that war rewards those who think differently, who use the enemy's expectations against them. His tactics foreshadowed the adaptive warfare strategies that would define future naval battles, especially in the Napoleonic era. Men like Nelson would learn from him, echoing his daring in their own victories. Perhaps most importantly, Rodney's victory proved that courage isn't just facing the enemy. It's facing uncertainty, risk, and overwhelming odds with clear vision. It's betting everything on your preparation and daring when no one else will. Even centuries later, military academies still study the Moonlight Battle. Not because it was flawless, but because it was fearless. It was a triumph of nerve, training, and tactical imagination. Rodney didn't wait for perfect conditions. He created them. And in doing so, he changed the way the sea was fought, forever. Admiral Rodney's decision to attack at night in a storm against a scattered Spanish fleet wasn't just a gamble. It was a masterclass in tactical audacity. He defied centuries of naval tradition and walked straight into chaos, trusting that his preparation and instincts would carry the day. And they did. The Moonlight Battle wasn't just a victory, it was a revolution in thinking. It reminded the world that great commanders don't just follow rules, they know when to break them. Rodney's genius wasn't in his cannons or his ships. It was in his courage to seize a fleeting moment that others would have let slip into darkness. So the next time you hear someone say, "That's not how it's done," think of Rodney. Think of sails cutting through storm winds, of cannons thundering in the dark, and of a man who saw a battlefield where others saw only night. Because history doesn't remember the cautious. It remembers the bold. If you enjoyed this story of brilliant tactics and broken rules, hit that like button, subscribe for more forgotten battles of history, and drop a comment. What would you have done if you were in command that night? Until next time, stay curious and stay bold. This is History Replay, this day.